You are listening to Digging In Podcast, presented by Rooted Wealth Advisors.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Digging In Podcast presented by Rooted Wealth Advisors. I'm your host, Kinch O'Kelley, helping you get those questions answered to and through retirement. Today I'm joined by the illustrious, the esteemed, the acclaimed Joe Mateja.
Wow, thank you, Kinch. I've been called a lot of names in my lifetime. Those are all firsts. Thank you.
I mean, basically, they all mean the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just, a fancy way to introduce you. I felt like you earned it, man. You've been on a roll.
I appreciate that. I feel as though I've been waking up every morning and just oozing optimism and excitement. And, I take a lot of pride in being positive and outgoing and all of those things.
Now, is that because the weather's nice and you've been out on the golf course and you just it just all flows that way?
Yeah, I think that there is something to be said to that. Kinch. Yeah, a lot of golf. Well, by a lot, twice. But you know what? A lot of time outside in the yard and, with Avery and, on the swing in the backyard and meeting new neighbors. And yeah, things are good. Birds are chirping.
That's awesome. I think the last time we talked, you were still looking for a house. So you got a house now. You're all settled.
Yeah, all settled. We're up in Mantino, so not too far. And no, we're enjoying it.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I'm glad the weather's turned up. I'm glad your golf game's turned up. One thing not turned up right now that we've got a lot of questions about is the market.
Great segue. Fantastic. Yeah, you're right. It's been quite the roller coaster, hasn't it?
I heard something. I think John said the worst start to the market in its history to date.
Yeah, in its history, you're looking at, depending on the market, out of the big three, the Dow, the S&P, and the NASDAQ, anywhere between about 9.5% to 22.5% down year to date.
Seems like a big number.
It is a big number, especially, let me put it into perspective. If the market grows by 0.05% every day, 365, which we know that's impossible, right? The markets are closed on weekends. But if it did, in theory, the market would be up for the year 20%. So just a small 0.05% a day. So to have a market as a whole be down 22%, that's a big number.
It feels like just kind of all these paper cuts every day have added up to something a lot bigger. So when you're down a few points every day, it doesn't, maybe it hurts a little bit, but then when you compound it, right? We're always talking about compounding on the upswing. Mm-hmm. Right now it's compounding on the downswing. Walk us through what factors have played into the volatility to start the year.
Oh my gosh, Kinch, what hasn't played into that, right? It's a number of variables, Kinch. It's inflation, it's a war, it's the Fed, raising rates to combat inflation. It's 12 years of rocket ship to the moon returns in the markets. So you've got a lot of stocks and holdings that are probably a little overvalued to begin with. So any downturn is amplified. It's uncertainty by average investors with all of those variables happening, right? So uncertainty creates the panic, and that's kind of what we're seeing. Now, that being said, if you eliminate one of those variables, the best thing that could happen to the market, in my opinion, and depending on who you follow out there, a lot of folks that are much smarter than me, say the same thing. If there's one thing that we could eliminate as a variable, it would be the war. The war ending will cease a lot of uncertainty that is, believe it or not, affecting our markets here. There's just a lot going on that, I think it really just drives home the fact that we need to be thinking about how much risk we're taking, within our portfolios, especially as we get closer to retirement, understanding how much, risk we're susceptible to, and how much of an appetite do we really have to swallow a loss, and how much time do we have to, recapture that. over time is important. And that's, a big piece of the puzzle for us, what we do here at Rooted.
Yeah, I think you touched on something that I kind of want to go back to. You touched on like the uncertainty. I think anytime there's uncertainty in people's lives, it causes them to be maybe a little more emotional. Have you seen that with some of the clients you've met with for some reviews? Like I know we try to stay the course and be positive. So sometimes you have to end up talking people off a ledge. They want to do something that's very reactionary, very emotional. And this affects, I think, men and women. I think anytime your money's affected, it puts you a little more on edge, especially when you're counting on that money.
Yeah, I think you're touching on a few things there, Kinch. I would say this, nobody wants to lose money. I've yet to sit across the table from anybody that has said, Joe, I don't care if I lose 10% every year forever.
Yeah,
doesn't exist,
that
right?
doesn't sound like a real person.
But that being said, I think there is something to say. I had a review recently, and it's never fun to deliver a message to a client like, "Hey, yeah, I know your account is down this year," but I had a review a couple of weeks back, and I was really proud of the fact that their portfolio was down less than 2%.
I mean, what did you just say? The market was down overall?
That's the thing. So depending on what you're looking at, could be 9.5, anywhere between 9.5 and 22.5% year to date. So, minimizing that loss is crucial. And having, plans in place on where to be pulling money from when it matters most in retirement. Where do I pull from in retirement if my account is down? Do I have another cookie jar? Do I have another account that's not down? How am I diversified within my portfolio to address, a period of time, especially if it's prolonged, where I have an account or accounts that are losing money? I'm referring to sequence of withdrawal risk, but I'm also touching on something called volatility drag. Volatility drag at a high level, Kinch, is where over time you're going to have an average rate of return. Let's say it's 5%, and maybe I have that same 5%. You're invested somewhere, I'm invested somewhere else, and your account has had drastic swings up and down over time, and you've averaged your 5%. My account has had maybe less upside, but a lot less downside. Well, over time, my account's going to have more money in it because I've managed the loss. I've mitigated my risk. So volatility drag can have a pretty drastic effect, and understanding that, at least at a high level, can also be pretty moving in a big way, positive way, as it relates to investments in retirement.
Now, that's the example you guys use at workshops. That's Vanguard versus XYZ firm, right? That's a little more boutique. Might have a little more firepower under the hood, but it's also exposed to a little more volatility.
Right.
Okay, so I think I'm following you there.
You are.
Going back to the sequence of return risk, do you think people understand that they need to pull from different accounts as the market fluctuates? Do you think that clicks with a lot of people, or are they just kind of stuck in their ways of like, this is where I'm drawing money from, this is where I should always draw money from?
What I've found in my experience in this business, Kinch, is that, and I think this relates to just about anything in life, right? We don't know what we don't know, right? Ignorance is bliss, right? I know these are all cliche, right? But we don't know what we don't know until we learn. And, one of the things that I've tried to kind of make it my mission to do is when I'm meeting with somebody is to talk about that. How many, I always use the term cookie jar, right? Having a pot of money in retirement is good. Having multiple pots of money is probably better. You have a pot of money to pull from when the market's doing great. You have a pot of money to pull from when the market's dropping. You have a pot of money to pull from that's tax deferred. You have a pot of money to pull from that's tax free. You have these multiple pots. So, and I think a lot of people, to your point, Kinch, kind of, cruise along during their lifetime, saving money, which is great. But then they accumulate their funds into this one big pot. Right. The old what was the old number that people used to say? Oh, if I have $1 million, right? I need $1 million and I'm good.
Right.
I argue that's probably not enough these days.
Not these days.
But the point is just saving that $1 million is a feat in and of itself.
Right.
But then what do I do with it? What's my exit strategy? Right.
Right.
And diversification can come in many forms, and it's not just about investments. It's about where my money is sitting.
Because that $1 million, if it's in the wrong place and Uncle Sam gets their hands on it, could look very different.
Yeah, whether it's Uncle Sam getting his cut, or it's a down market, right, getting its cut.
Right.
If anything in this world that we know to be true, it's death, taxes, and unfortunately, I would tell you this too: it's market volatility. Right, it's going to happen. Market's going to go up and it's going to go down, and it's going to continue to do so for as long as a market exists. Understanding that and being prepared for those ups and downs is important.
So what are you saying? I understand. Situations are situational. That's been my favorite saying, like throughout COVID for the past 2 years.
Sure.
But what do you find yourself saying repeatedly to clients that sit down with you and want some reassurance?
I think that something that I've been doing more recently that I think has been connecting a lot, specific to a down market and what do I do in retirement when the market's down? Where's my income going to come from? Has been just kind of hitting between the eyes, right? Just look, you need a pot of money to pull from when the market's up, but I don't really care about it when the market's up. I don't care. I care about when the market's down. That's what I care about.
Right.
When the market is down, where are you going to pull your money from? Right? If you have an account that's down 10% and you pull out in another 10%, well, that account's not down 10. Right? It's more than that. You're amplifying
because you're compounding it, right?
Bingo. So, I think that, I guess to answer your question really, Kinch, it's just being blunt about it. I think a lot of people appreciate that, right? There's no beating around the bush. I take a lot of pride in not sugarcoating things. I feel that, just being forward and brutally honest seems to really connect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know our team prides ourselves in transparency, and that's across the board, whether that's a leadership team meeting or individual advisors meeting with clients or prospects. It is tough. I think I've seen some people come out of a review with you or one of the other advisors, and they seem to be enlightened, right? When you show that comparison about like what the market has been doing, what you've been doing, and nobody likes losing money. You said that, but to see that you could be down a compounded amount more, and it's like you need those multiple cookie jars, right? You got to have your chocolate chip, your oatmeal raisin, your snickerdoodles. Different pots to pull from is super important. What would you say to somebody that's just getting started on the flip side of this? Somebody that is it really true that everything's on sale right now? If you've got more money, if you've got a little more timeline, is now the time to get in?
I would look. Here's the disclosure: I don't have the crystal ball. I knocked it off the shelf a couple weeks back.
Oh man, should have seen it coming.
Yeah. That being said, I think there is a lot of truth to that right now, Kinch. The market's down. Investing 101: buy low, sell high. Is the market at its all-time low? I don't know. Have we hit the bottom? I don't know.
Right.
I know that it is significantly lower than it was a month ago, 6 months ago. That presents opportunities. And that's where having a professional team at your disposal on your side can be invaluable, right? Most people get emotional when it comes to their money, right? They do. And when it's going up, we get emotional. We're excited. When we're losing money, we get emotional. We start to freak out. And you know what? I think that, a theme, I would say the last 6 to 12 months has been, this complacency theme, right? We've kind of grown complacent. The stock market only goes up. And I think the opposite is happening right now. It is not time to be complacent. It's not time to sit back and be frozen, whether it be in fear or uncertainty, now is the time to be thinking about, okay, where does my money sit? What opportunities do I have? Is there a silver lining in a down market? I would say yes, at a high level, there's absolutely silver linings. There's absolutely opportunities.
Right.
And we've been taking advantage of a lot of those opportunities with our clients. I'll use Roth conversions as an example. Typically, a Roth conversion conversation is going to take place with somebody, towards the end of a year. Why? Well, that's when most people know what their taxable income is going to be, which
Right.
is a determining factor in whether or not a Roth conversion makes sense. That being said, the other opportunity to do a Roth conversion is when, the market's down, because you can get out of tax-deferred money and get that over into tax-free dollars and let it come back, let it grow.
Yeah.
And now all that growth is tax-free. So, there's a lot of opportunities right now.
Seems like situations are situational, Joe. It seems like each individual has their own unique situation, which is what we come back to. I would think a Roth conversion would be hard for somebody that maybe has like a commission-based income right now because you don't know what it's going to be. So you kind of have to pick and choose like what strategies for which individual.
Yeah, look, it's not cookie cutter, and I take a lot of pride in the team here at Rooted and our ability and our intentional drive and activities to not be cookie cutter, right? We pour a lot of time and effort into each individual client and their situation and their plan, down to every holding and investment within their portfolio. And no, situations are situational, and it is a one-off conversation every single time. To your example, without getting too specific, in the event that or in the situation or scenario where we have a commission-based employee, for example, or individual whose income can fluctuate, well, maybe you don't swing for the fences and go all out and push all the chips in. But if there's an opportunity to do something, do it. Don't be complacent. Now's not the time to sit on the sidelines.
I knew you'd have the answer. I knew you'd twist a little strategy and figure it out. That's why you make the big bucks, man. I do kind of want to go back to something you said that made a light bulb go off in my head, and I apologize. This might be the clickbait title for the video, but you said something about the market bottoming out, and that made me wonder: are there telltale signs that say that when a market's at a bottom and it's going to rebound? Are there warning signs or telltale signs that we're looking for? If there's not, tell me. I just feel like I have a very elementary understanding of how it works, and I didn't know if you had any insight.
If I knew the absolute answer to that, Kinch, no offense, but I would be retired on my island in Costa Rica.
Okay.
That being said, a good starting point is understanding that history repeats itself typically in the market, right? So we can look at signs, what's happened in the last 6 months within our market. And then if we go back in history and look at every downturn in the market and look at the preceding period of time, a lot of times you'll see some of those things repeat themselves. Right now, one of the signs is inflation. Right. Depending on, again, the outlet that you follow, the reports are that we've hit peak inflation, and we're starting the downturn. Well, if that's true, then, maybe that's a sign, right? Do I think that if inflation continues to go down, that the Fed is going to put a halt to their rate hikes? No, I don't think so. The market has those priced in. They've already announced it.
Right.
But the beauty or the silver lining would be if inflation has peaked, if that's on its way down, then the Fed might not be inclined to surprise us with even more rate hikes. Or maybe they would, instead of a 0.5 point rate hike, maybe be a 1/4 point. And that would be unexpected. But in the opposite direction, that'd be a good thing. Right. We're counting on a 0.5 point. If it's only a 1/4, that's a good thing.
It's like a bonus.
Right.
So my question with history repeats itself. I hear you, I believe you, but I also feel like we've never been at a point in history that we're at right now with the national debt, where it's at with the current administration and some policies in place with tax provisions set to sunset very soon.
Yeah.
I hear history repeats itself. I just have a hard time wrapping my brain around. It's not like, maybe it just feels like that because my history of everything, my mental remembrance of everything is a lot shorter. So maybe it just feels like that.
Yeah. Gosh, Kinch, you're getting deep on me. I like it.
Hey, that's not called digging in for no reason, Joe.
Yeah, no, we're digging in for sure. Look, I think it just comes back to the fact that there are a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of uncertainties, and every day is a new opportunity to create history and change, if you will, history moving forward. But that being said, there are some fundamental pieces to the puzzle as it relates to the markets and investments and corporate profits and all of these figures that go into market performance that just are kind of like pillars, right? It's like the foundation, right? The you can change the paint on a building, but the foundation is always there.
That's a good analogy.
Okay, so just because you've got aesthetically things changing, whether it be a war or inflation, all of these variables coming into the fold, the foundation's there, and that's not going anywhere.
That's a good enough answer for me. I appreciate that outlook too, because that leads me to my last kind of thing, like give us some hope, and the fact that there are foundational principles in place, that we do have some history to look back on, even though the current time frame may look a little bit different. I mean, we don't have flying cars yet. Where you at, Elon Musk?
Yeah. No
joke. But the fact that there are things that you can look back on, some kind of signs that you can kind of point to, and there is some hope for the future.
I think there's a lot of hope for the future. I think that the hope, or to stick with the silver lining go-to for me, the silver lining is, Kinch, that the time to be complacent is not now. It never has been, and it, quite frankly, never will be, right? Having a plan in place is the silver lining. That is the hope. So, just because we have uncertainty in the future doesn't mean that we can't plan for it. And, if you're meeting with us at Rooted, the other silver lining is just to put a plan in place doesn't cost anything except a little bit of time. Right. So if I want to give somebody hope, I want you to know that it's not going to cost a dime other than a little bit of time to get a plan and see in black and white what do I look like 10 years from now? What does my situation look like 20 years from now? Right. Under stress. Right. So it's plan for the worst, hope for the best.
Right.
Plan for the worst, hope for the best.
And plan with a professional who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Do you know anybody like that? Do you know anybody that can help with that?
I do. Kinch. Shameless plug. I would hope you come meet with me. I don't bite. There's no timeshare presentations when you sit down with me and visit for a while. I love having these conversations with folks. I get, call me crazy, Kinch. I get a lot of enjoyment out of it.
It's a fun little give and take, and I think people probably aren't ready for the humor that you bring to a financial conversation either. You do a good job of like lightening the mood, because sometimes finances can be heavy to talk about. And so you have a unique personality that you can't help but try and make people smile through the process.
I try to be as outgoing as possible, Kinch. I do.
It's good. It's good. I think it's fun. I think it's different than what a lot of other, like, what the stipulation on like financial advisors is. And I want to give you one last opportunity to plug 2-Minute Tuesdays coming soon. 2-Minute
Tuesdays. I am looking forward to this, Kinch. We're going to chat about a lot of different topics, everything from inflation, market volatility, volatility drag. We'll talk about taxes. We will talk about Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, simple IRAs, SEP IRAs. What do you want to talk about, Kinch? We're going to talk.
Oh man, we're going to have a mailbag segment. People send in their ideas, and you sit down. So for those of you that don't know, 2-Minute Tuesdays coming soon with your very own Joe Mateja. He's going to release some videos every Tuesday. They're not supposed to be longer than 2 minutes. He's going to try to keep them tight, and I'm going to try and hold him to that. So he's going to break down every financial topic under the sun. So if you've got some ideas, feel free to shoot them an email, drop them in my inbox. I'll make sure they get over to them. I can't wait to see them, help you put them together. I think it's going to be fun.
I'm excited. I really am.
All right. Well, that's it for us today. We'd like to thank our presenting sponsor, Rooted Wealth Advisors. If you have any questions about anything you heard on today's show, or you want to talk to Joe about your individual situation, give him a call. The number's 815-918-4727. Tell him you heard about him from the Digging In podcast. That'll do it from us. Until next time, keep digging in.
This was Digging In Podcast, presented by Rooted Wealth Advisors.